Warrior is getting some new cards that let you help your opponent. Also, with the Fabled Legendary you can play Valeera, and with the other Legendary you can basically undo what your opponent did last turn. Those cards and all the other Warrior cards we will be looking at in this video. So let's get started with the very first card, which is Unleash the Crocolisk, a 1 mana spell. Gain 10 armor, summon 2/3 beast for your opponent, and then they get the Colosseum Crocolisk. And yeah, this is a first hand, right? It doesn't seem very good. Yeah, you get the 10 armor for 1 mana, which is great, but you are summoning 2/3 beast for your opponent, and yeah, you don't really want to help your opponent, right? There's not like a good 3 AoE damage either for Warrior. Something like Hostile Invader could clear this, but then you have to play this, then Hostile Invader, and then another spell, and that is probably a bit too much for this card. Now, how you can use this card though is with like a brawl, right? You play this and a brawl on 6, you gain 10 armor, and you often make the brawl better, especially if the opponent has a bunch of big minions on the board. And also you can maybe in specific situations, right, like make the res pool for the opponent worse. If they just try to res like big minions, then maybe you can ruin it with this one, or against like a priest where they want to play Resuscitate on like their sentry, right, for the Protoss priest. And then you play this one, they res this, and then they don't get the sentry back. They can't play their motherships anymore for cheap, and then yeah, the deck just doesn't win, so you can maybe use it for those matchups. And it's just a bunch of armor by itself, right? 10 armor, it's nothing to sniff at. It's a lot, and then if you can easily deal with the minions as well, that is very nice to have the armor. But overall, yeah, summoning minions for your opponent isn't that great, right? It requires other cards to really be worth it. So I don't think it's gonna be very good though, so I'll be giving this card 2 stars. And the second card we have for Warrior is Slow Motion, a 2 mana spell. Your opponent's cards cost 1 more next turn. So this is basically like the mage titan we had, Norganon, and that was really nice, but it was mostly nice because yeah, you got to play Norganon, and then if they didn't kill Norganon, you actually got a huge payoff. And yeah, that's not really the case with this card. Like you play this, and then yeah, you delay your opponent's turn, but also you kind of delay your game plan, right? Because you spent the card and 2 mana just to do this. In most situations, this card just isn't very good, right? Like you play this, and then instead of 5 mana card, they played a card for 6 mana. Yeah, not really worth the card at all for this one. It's only really good, right, if your opponent wants to play like a bunch of small stuff into decks like Rogue, right? Just play a bunch of stuff in a turn, and this card can really hurt. But into other decks that just to play like 1-2 cards a turn, right? It's not very good. So yeah, you're not playing this most likely in like a aggro deck, right? Just not worth the slot. Although you could protect your board with it, but you probably just don't have the slots for this card in your deck. And then maybe in a slower deck, but if you're playing a slower deck, then you generally want to respond to the board, and then yeah, if they have a board, you don't want to play this and then not deal with the board, right? You want to deal with the board. So I think this mostly is going to be a tech card that you play versus like combo decks, right, where you just need 1 turn to win the game against like you know, like Alonia's Druid, right? When you think they're gonna be doing the combo, you play this, they can't do the combo, and then you have 1 more turn. But even then, right, you still have to win that next turn, or yeah, it's kind of pointless, this one. So I don't think it's gonna be amazing, but I think at some points it can have a place in a deck, so that's why I'll be giving it 2 stars. And the third card we have for Warrior is the Stadium Announcer, a 4 mana 3/3 dragon with Rewind, Battlecry. Both players equip a random weapon, give yours +1/+1. So this kind of looks like Blinktron a little bit. Just a little bit. Although this time, yeah, there's Rewind, it's cheaper, it's a dragon, and you get your weapon a +1/+1. And actually, it's kind of a big deal, that +1/+1, don't underestimate it. Like a lot of weapons are like 3/2 weapons, that's kind of the average, I'd say, that you get. So if you get that +1/+1, right, the weapon goes from 6 damage to 12 damage. And that's a pretty big difference, right? Getting like a 12 damage weapon for 4 mana. I don't think you necessarily want to underestimate that. That's a lot of damage for just 4 mana. However, of course, you do give your opponent a weapon as well. So that's not great, right? You can give them like Bulwark of Azzinoth or Doomhammer. That's not exactly what you want to give them in most matchups. But again, on average, it's probably going to be like a Fireworks kind of weapon that you give them maybe with a small upside. And you have to Rewind, so that's really nice, right? You just play this, and then unless your opponent gets one of the few high rolls, you probably don't Rewind. But if they do, you can Rewind it, and then probably they won't get the high roll again, right? So that is actually quite nice. And it's also Dragon, so it has that Dragon synergy, so you can enable your Dragon cards. But of course, yeah, you are giving your opponent a weapon. It's only a 4 mana 3/3, so it's not amazing. I'm not sure if we'll see play this year, but I could see play next year if there's some like Dragon synergies that will be going on, like a Dragon Tempo deck, right? Just getting that big weapon to push damage. I think it can be playable at some point, and that's why I'll also give this card 2 stars. And the next card we have for Warrior is For Glory, a 5 mana spell. Draw 2 cards. Cost 1 less for each minion your opponent controls. Now we get to like 2 more cards that summon minions later, but I don't think they're going to be very good. So this card by itself relies on your opponent, and generally cards that rely on your opponent playing stuff have not been very good. Now Warrior doesn't have the best card draw right now, although there's like 2 mana draw 2 taunts, right, or the all you can eat, but it doesn't have much in like general card draw, right, to draw like your spells and so on. And I don't think this is gonna fix it though. Like 5 mana, draw 2, like an intellect you probably wouldn't be playing either, so this needs at least 3 minions on the opponent's side. And yeah, there is that 1 mana spell, right, they can summon 2 minions. Again, more cards later, but I don't think they're good. And then yeah, your opponent, if they're not playing multiple minions, this card is just really bad. And generally, I think cards that rely on the opponent playing stuff are just really bad. Like yeah, you can face an aggro deck and then there's a 0 mana draw 2, great. But what if you're facing like a slower deck, right, that has 1 minion? Are you going to spend 4 mana on drawing 2 cards? I don't think you want to be doing that. That's just too much of a downside for the occasional time that this is like 1 or 0 mana. For a card like this, it's rare that relying on your opponent to do things is a good strategy, so I just don't think this card is going to see play, and I'll be giving this 1 star. And then one of the cards I mentioned that can give your opponent's minions is Gladiatorial Combat, a 5 mana spell. Summon a random minion from your deck. Summon a 5/5 tiger with stealth for your opponent, and then you get the Colosseum Tiger. Well, are you not entertained? And yeah, this card just looks kind of terrible. Like you can cheat out a minion from your deck, but it means you have to play a big warrior deck. But there's barely anything really worth summoning for warrior right now. Like yeah, there's Tortilla, but you rather have Chemical Spill because you know guaranteed you're gonna get Tortilla, right? And you can actually play other minions with it. This one, it's any minion, and that means just not playing small minions, just big minions, and those big minions in warrior just they don't really win games, I think. Like, yeah, you maybe get a safety expert and monstrosity on board early, but yeah, you give your opponent a 5/5, and yeah, those cards don't really win the game by themselves, I think, and then it's just not worth playing this card at all. Just giving your opponent a 5/5 tiger is just not worth it. Like, it's just really bad giving your opponent good minions like this, right? It's not like you're giving them a 1/1. This is a 5/5 with stealth, so you can't even rush into it. If you get a big rusher, just seems like an awful card to me, and I'll be giving this 1 star. And then we get a card that works really well with the draw spell. It is the Undefeated Champion. An 8 mana 13/13. Not really stat line we've seen before, I think. Rush, Battlecry. Fill your opponent's board with random 1-cost minions. So obviously you can play this and then play that draw card for 0. So that can be quite nice, but then you have to play this card. And this card seems pretty awful. For 8 mana, helping your opponent get bored, and then, yeah, you get a 13/13, but would you even play an 8 mana 13/13 with Rush? I'm not even sure you would want to play that in your deck. Like, yeah, it's a lot of stats, but on turn 8, you only kill 1 minion with it, and this one fills your opponent's board with minions, and while sometimes giving your opponent the shitty 1-cost minions can be good, most of the time, I don't think it's gonna be great. You're just gonna be taking more damage, and that's probably not what you want if you're playing this card. So I don't really see why you want to be playing it. Yeah, you get cheated out with the previous card, but again, cheating out the 13/13 on turn 5 while giving your opponent a 5/5 with stealth. I mean, it's basically cheating out like a 13/8. And for turn 5, that 2-card combo, not really worth it, I would say. So I don't think you will ever want to be playing this card, and I'll be giving this 1 star. And let's go to the Fabled Legendary for a warrior, which is Logos, Bloodfighter, a 7 mana 7/7 with Rush and Death Rattle. Summon a Bloodfighter from your hand. It gains +5/+5 and attacks a random enemy. 2 cards you get with Fabled are a Brawl Bloodfighter, so that's a hunting card that you probably don't remember. A 7 mana 7/7 with Taunt and Death Rattle. Summon a Bloodfighter from your hand. Give it +5/+5 and Taunt. And then the third Bloodfighter we got here is Valeera. Also a 7/7, this time with Elusive. And with Death Rattle, summon a Bloodfighter from your hand and give it +5/+5 and Elusive. So obviously these chain into each other, and then they give +5/+5 and basically their keyword, although Rush becomes attack a random enemy. And that is a lot of stats, right, by itself. Like this is a 7/7 you start with, the next one is a 12/12, and the next one is a 12/12 if you can chain all of them together. And then especially I think Logos is definitely the best one because you get to attack a random enemy, and if you attack a random enemy for 12 and its face, that's pretty strong. For 7 mana getting 12 damage in. However, the issue is, of course, that these cards are pretty awful by themselves. You would not want to play these cards just by themselves, right? Just a 7/7, like, you don't want to play that. So it really requires at least one other minion. But then, yeah, if you only get one other minion with it, it's okay, right? You get a 7/7 into a 12/12 with an extra effect. But then the next one you get is going to be useless, right? Because there's no other blood fighter you can get. So you want to be tutoring these cards, right? To get all of them in your hand, or at least have two of them. But then, yeah, the only one you can really tutor, I think, is Brawl, because it has Taunt. And then the others, you just hope you draw. And I think that's a really big downside. Because if there's one at the bottom, yeah, it's going to be an alright card. But you really want to get all three. And then the situations where you just have one of these, it's pretty bad, right? And the only one with an immediate impact is a Logos, because, you know, people can bypass the taunts. And yeah, I think that's just a little slow for this kind of card. I think it just requires just a little bit too much setup. Although Logos is really strong, though. I think that effect that's a really good one, right? Getting a 7/7 kill a minion and getting a 12/12 that attacks a minion. That's good. I think this card just only really works well if you get all three of them. There's just too much removal otherwise, even if you just get two. And while Logos is good, I don't think it's gonna carry this package by itself, so I think I'll be giving this card 2 stars. Then we're going to the next spell, the Precursory Strike, a 2 mana spell with deal 3 damage. If you're holding a minion that costs 5 or more, draw a minion. So this can work pretty well with the Fabled card, right? Just you hold one of them, you can draw another minion, though I don't think it's going to be the only minions you'll be playing in that deck. But this card looks pretty solid, right? Just deal 3 damage. And then potentially drawing a card, that's nice. As Warrior right now, you're kind of lacking that early removal where you just can kill one minion. It's actually a struggle sometimes. You got some board clears, right? But just getting rid of one minion, like one like a 1/3, like Vicious Slither Spear, it can actually be kind of a problem early on. And this can really help with that. Just kill a minion and then cycle, so you replace the card. So you're not really losing any cards in your hand, but you did just remove a threat. And that can be pretty solid. Now you do need a minion that costs 5 or more, although of course you can also play it without it, but it's not great. But if you're playing a slower deck, you're probably going to be having minions that cost 5 or more, right? You got Hostile Invader, Ancient of Yore, maybe Exodar if you're playing Starships, or like a Tortilla, right? Ziliax, lots of cards that cost 5 or more, so good chance you got one of them. Maybe you can play it in like a tempo deck with dragons, right? Where a bunch of the dragons cost 5 or more as well, so you have little bit more burst or just some removal. It can be solid in that. So yeah, I'd say good card overall. Does some good things for your deck, and you don't mind putting the card in your deck at all. So I'll be giving this 3 stars. Then we have another dragon, the Heir of Hereafter, a 5 mana 2/6 dragon with Taunt. Battlecry, gain +2/+2 for each damaged minion. So this obviously goes into a Enraged Warrior deck that doesn't exist, and I think that's the main issue with this card. Just, yeah, you only play this in an Enraged deck, right? Like, you need at least probably 2 damage minions for this to be worth it, so it's a 6/10 for 5 mana. Only then I think it starts being worth it, and that really requires you to play an Enraged deck, because most of the time there's not going to be enough damage minions, right, for this to work, unless you're playing specific cards to damage your own minions. And then, yeah, you could make this pretty big though, right? Like if there's like 2 damage minions on your opponent's side and your side, yeah, this is a 10/14. That's a big taunt to have for just 5 mana. But I think it just requires just too much setup, and there's just no deck for this. That's just the main issue with this card. The Dragon Tag is nice, but if there's no Enraged Warrior, there's just not enough tools for that. I think it's just too often not gonna be great, and that's just not worth a slot in your deck, so I'll be giving this 1 star. And then we get to the final card, and I'd say the best card from the Warrior set. It is Chronolord Epoch, a 6 mana 7/5 dragon. Battlecry, destroy all minions that your opponent played last turn. So you can sort of rewind your opponent's board if they played the minions. Of course, this doesn't work with summoned minions, so if they play a spell to summon a minion, it's not very good, right? Like against like mage decks that just play spells, this is not quite gonna work out. But against a lot of stuff though, it does work really well, especially with like the Narrowlex we see often, right? You play Narrowlex, let's say Ysera on turn 7, and then another card with it. You play this one, and those 3 cards are all gone if the last card is a minion as well, right? Like that's a pretty big deal, just being able to wipe the board guaranteed. And I think that makes it really strong in a control deck, just basically getting rid of all the strong minions your opponent just played. They have a big swing turn, nope, all gone. And there really isn't any card that stops it, right? The only thing you can do is try and play around it by not overextend, but then it also makes this card very good, right? If your opponent is playing less stuff on the board to play around it, even if you don't have the card in your hand, like if they're playing around it, that's already making this card better just to put it in your deck. And I think that makes it just really strong, just be able to deal with those big turns. Guaranteed, not like Brawl, right, where maybe the biggest minion survives. No, just guaranteed, you know what you're gonna clear. The card is just really good at countering those big swing turns that often win games. That's what we see in Hearthstone, right? Those big turns with, again, Narlex, or maybe like against Protoss Priest, right? They play the Mothership into more big Protoss cards. Well, this one just clears it all. I think that's really good. Now, of course, the downside is it doesn't really work well if, again, minions get summoned. That is really weak. You get smaller minions like aggro decks, right? You can maybe kill 2 1-drops. It's pretty weak against it. But looking at the meta now, there's a bunch of decks that just summon minions, right? Or like Quest Warlock, Egg Warlock. You're not really going to be playing this card. And that does make it a bit weaker. And yeah, just killing like 1/5/5 or something, it's not amazing, right? You really want to just kill those swing turns from the opponent, which it's really good at, but that's the main thing it's good against, unless there's some like Ultra Gigas where people play, right? Then you can play this one. But I don't quite see that happening. So I think it's a good card, though little bit situational, but yeah, being able to destroy those swing turns with Narlex makes this card, I think, worth including in your deck, and I'll be giving this a 3-star rating. And those are all the warrior cards. What do you think of them? Are you going to be playing the Fabled card or trying out any of the other cards? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and until next time.